Hello, David. Good to see you.
Super to be here.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm looking forward to whereabouts is here.
Oh, I'm at home in Dubai, but you're back in Australia?
Back in Australia, yeah. Landed back this morning. Yeah, landed back this morning. Had a great session with Dan Brown, Perry, and a few people today. So it was terrific day. I've had a really lovely day actually, and I've been looking forward to this. Been looking forward to this for a long time. Great opportunity to get both Tolga and Melda on at the same time. A rare opportunity. So excited about it. Yeah.
There's a lot of excitement amongst most of the people that I've talked to, so this is going to be a fun session.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, we're fantastic. We've got lots of different characters joining today. LW, whereabouts in the world are you, mate?
I've just got back from Berlin.
Are you back in Dubai?
Yeah, I'm in Dubai. Yeah.
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. Great to have you here. Last day of Q1. Can't believe it.
Yeah.
Where is this year going? It's insane. Fantastic. I had a very good chat with a great mate of yours today, Brad BP. Had a great chat with BP, superstar that he is.
Yeah, he really is.
Yeah, I really, fantastic. So we've got Cornelis joining from, we've got Vicky, fantastic. Cornelis joining from the UK. Susie Q joining as well. Maddie Baker joining from in Dubai as well. Gareth joining from South Africa. We've got a really diverse group. We've got a very diverse group today. Peter Turner joining. Fantastic. We've got Demir as well joining. We've got a great diverse group of people today. Randeep Singh even gave up golf on a Friday afternoon for this call. This is a massive day. Imagine Randeep giving up golf to get to join that's some sort of pulling power you've got there, Melda and Tolga, to get Randeep Singh not to be out on the golf course on a Friday afternoon. Phenomenal.
He squeezed it in on Thursday afternoon instead.
Exactly. Thank you, Mick, for the kind words. And I did end up playing yesterday, so all good. But I would have. I was really looking forward to joining on this call, and here we are.
Yeah, I think there's so many people. There's so many people really interested in this, and so out of respect for everyone's time, because Davika will be running our breakout rooms and allowing people to join. I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you. Oh, well, I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, Melda and Tolga. You will have the introduction that they're a high-performance couple, and it's a real privilege for me to have worked with Melda so closely for such a long time. It's actually more than work to me to get the opportunity to host this call today, especially through the change and transition that's happening in her life at the moment. And through that, I've also had the opportunity to meet Tolga. Now, they are a high-performance couple, and what we know about high performance is high-performance people are not well-rounded. High-performance partnerships are. So they've got beautiful differences and similarities that make them a unique high-performance couple. So the thing that most people were interested in joining today, I think, was one of the pieces of language that we use a lot at To Be Limitless is nobody ever comes to us and says, we'd like to be average. Can you help us? You know, that's not really the work that we do. Yet that's really hard because we're expected to bring high performance to, and we want to bring high performance to the way that we lead from a professional perspective, the way we lead our families, the relationships we build, the quality time that we find for each other and the quality time we find for ourselves. And that creates can create an enormous amount of stress. And today is not, as Melda and Tolga will say to you, we've been perfect. It's not about that. It is about learning from experience, learning from tools, and figuring out, right, how do we get this elusive work-life integration to work in a high-performance way when we've both got aspirations, when we're both parents, where we're also in a relationship with one another, and we have all of these expectations pushing on us. So without any further ado, I'd like to take some time to introduce Melda and Tolga. I'd also like to thank everyone who's joined today for giving up your Friday afternoon, especially during Ramadan, to join us. And also to sincerely thank Melda and Tolga for making the time to join us this afternoon. And I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves. And this is largely going to be a self-run component. I'll jump in with a couple of questions here and there, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end about lessons learned, and then we'll let everybody enjoy their Friday morning, their Friday afternoon, or their Friday night, depending on where you are in the world. Melda, Tolga, thank you so much for joining us.
It's our pleasure. Thanks for giving us this opportunity and to meet such a diverse team. I mean, I was trying to check the names and understand where each of the audience is from, but definitely looks like a widely diverse team. So it's great. And thanks to everyone who made it today to investing an hour from your lives, especially on a Friday afternoon, which is the best part of the week, opinion. So thanks for that. And excuse us for the the background and the lights, because we are in Singapore in a hotel room as we speak, and that's the best setup we could arrange. So it's not necessarily the perfect one, but I hope you'll understand it. So let me quickly introduce myself, and then Tolga will continue. I'm Turkish, born in a small city in Turkey to a middle-income family. I showed strength in math and science. That's why I became an engineer. I was one of the few girls in the engineering school. It wasn't really my passion, but I thought because I'm smart, I have to be an engineer. That was the thing in Turkey at that time. Soon realized that that's not what I want to do. Did my MBA to buy some time to decide what I want to do. After the MBA, I started my career in the fast-moving consumer goods industry. And for the last 20 plus years, I've been selling most of the products that you buy in a supermarket: detergents, shampoos, baby diapers, you name it. I worked in 3 multinational organizations: Gillette, Procter & Gamble, and recently Kraft Heinz. Married with Tolga, we have 2 kids and a dog. I like traveling, I like exploring. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
Fantastic. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. This is Tolga, and I was born in the same city, although we met with Melda much later. I think the interesting thing for me was my parents were professors of molecular physics and physical chemistry. So as you can imagine, I was a very analytically driven kid. I would say borderline nerd, especially in the secondary school. And then this was also reflected in an engineering background in the university. But then, like Melda, I jumped into the FMCG industry with a bit of management consulting, but mostly it was basically with P&G and later with Coke. mainly in Istanbul and in Dubai. Again, in a diversified way across functions of marketing, strategy, operations, and general manager positions. And recently, I'm moving to Singapore for a new role. Maybe just before giving the floor to Mick for any stimulating questions, just as Mick, as you mentioned, we really see this as sharing some of the insights or learnings that we found out over our journey. By no means, I think it was perfect. So please let's please keep it very casual, and whenever anybody wants to ask any question, please feel free also to jump in. Let's really keep it as a casual conversation.
Yeah,
I would like to hear your opinions. I mean, if you have any best practices, I think it can be a good sharing environment for everyone.
yeah, and I know that's particularly important to you too at the moment on your quest in Singapore. You're leaving. It's one of the things, and you'll talk about your model in a little while, that your willingness to leave behind comfort in order to explore, create more diversity and challenge in your life are hallmarks of the way that you've grown constantly. And so I love that there's a really interesting part around how the level of comfort you came to in Dubai actually stimulated a change as well. So I think that's it's a really interesting piece. So Tolga, you mentioned chemistry, physical chemistry as part of your degree. I'm really interested in the chemistry between you and Melda. So what do you admire the most in Melda? And then I'm going to ask Melda to reverse that question and
we can spend more time on this question. I like the question.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a superb question. Luckily, we're not asking Liam Holy about what he admires in himself. We don't have that much time today, LW, to get into that one. But what do you Tolga admire the most about Melda?
I think admiration, maybe borderline jealousy, is probably her stress management and rationality. Any conversation that you can have, whether it's on the professional side, whether it's on the personal side, whether the Mediterranean emotions are high or not, she would always keep it at a rational space. So that's something that I think she's doing better than I do. Therefore, I for that. I think the second area is that I think when it comes to social networking, connecting with people, I think she's fantastic. So these are the areas again which I feel as also spouse.
Good to hear. It's not in my top 5 or 10 strengths, and according to Clifton, but I'm happy to hear that. No, this is nice. Nick, you want me to
about
answer
for you, Melda? What about for you? What about for you? What do you admire in Tolga? What makes you? What's the admiration for? And then for both of you to describe them, why do you think your partnership has worked so well? Yeah. So what do you admire in Tolga?
I guess if we were colleagues, I would admire his strategic thinking, his analytical skills, stamina, really, a very strategic brain. But if I think more, as my husband, more on the emotional context, I think I admire his heart. He's a very caring, giving, generous person, most probably a better person than I am. If we're watching a romantic chick flick, a comedy, whatever, he will be the first to cry. And then it's easy for me, to have tears because I don't feel alone. But no, I think definitely his heart, he has a huge brain, but his heart is even bigger.
So can I ask to take at least this portion away from the recording later?
Yeah, that's the part I'm going to edit and send to you deliberately, Tolga. Okay, then this is a question without notice, which Melda, you're used to because you've worked with me for a long time. So this wasn't even a question, but it's just jumped into my head there. Where's the space as you move into this new challenge? Where's the area, Tolga, that you would love to see Melda develop even more? what's the space that, this is a challenging question, but I thought that I'd throw out. What's a space where you'd like to see Melda develop even more?
Well, I'm not sure whether it would be make a development as a term, but because of Melda's rationality, she's sometimes too judgmental as well, right? She offers the critiques, and to a great extent, it's wonderful because you get some feedback from the person actually that knows you most. But sometimes you also feel that it's a bit more critical. So maybe while we're making a transition where I think things would be very dynamic, volatile, there can be less judgment.
Feedback taken.
Wow. So one of the things I think Melda forgot to mention was your courage as well. That was a courageous comment. Melda, what about the area for radical candor? Yeah, real radical candor. I think that's part of the reason why it works so well. Melda, where's the area that as you go into the next space, and of course, talk about areas of development, especially in the work that we've done, it can be the most important area typically to develop, as Pete Turner, who's on this call, would say, is learn from your wins. So are there any areas where you'd love to see Tolga just push out a bit further, because he's got so much value to offer there, or area of development that you think, wow, with this new change, there's an opportunity to grow and change and be more than you were before?
I mean, we'll discuss further about our careers, what we have done. But when I think about Tolga's history, or our common history, I think he has shown a lot of strength in being adaptive to different roles, different functions in his career. So he's been, as he grows in his career, he has been changing roles back, and he's quite agile, quite flexible. He learns things quite fast. I think this is now yet another opportunity, because we're moving into a different region from Middle East to Southeast Asia. I think it's not fixing, but it's further developing his strength of agility in learning. This is yet another opportunity for him to get even better in that mental agility space. He's too perfect, nothing to fix, but he can get better on this one.
Yeah, fantastic. I really love that. And I love the way that you both interact so openly and freely. You've both spoken to me before about the importance of team play, and the reality that your careers have moved at different times and places, and that you've never compromised, so you've never gone against what you value, but you've been really flexible with that. So your comment around team play, I know you've got lots of elements around team play, and this will probably go for a while, but I'm interested in because it's something I admire. It's something that I know I'm trying to improve in the quality of my relationship as well. What does team play look like in the context of high performance partnerships, and what are some of the tools, some of the things, some of the practical examples of that playing out as your careers have continued to grow and thrive as they have in new and challenging places and spaces?
Why don't you go?
I think being married, being a family is very similar to being a team. We have a common objective, and it's a group of people coming together to achieve those objectives. So our partnership is not any different than any teamwork. Maybe we're making it a bit more challenging, because while we are being, husband and wife, we have 2 kids as well. So it's the responsibility of 4 people in the team. And on top of these, we both have demanding careers, and we have aspirations as well. So maybe this team has really ambitious targets, so we need to be high performing. I guess like any other team, we also have a vision, a North compass that we have. And I mean, don't get me wrong, when we were getting married, we didn't do a prenup with a vision and mission statements. But as you get to know yourself and you get to know your partner, it starts to get being more clear what you want to achieve in life, personally, but also collectively. And at an early stage in our relationship, I think we've been intentional about having that vision written together. Of course, it keeps changing. I mean, the North Star is there, but how you get there changes, the how the path changes, and it's okay to have those corrections along the way. But having that, I think, alignment has been the key of our teamwork. And as our kids joined the team, it was also a priority for us to make them part of that vision as well. So, I mean, hopefully, if you ask our kids today, they should be able to explain in their words why we're moving from Dubai to Singapore, and why it's good for them and good for us as a family collectively. So they've been part of the team play as well. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah. Again, it was not, I think it evolved over time. But as a North Star, if we talk a bit about the what's in there, I think it's like the hierarchy of Maslow, if you think about it. And from day one, we wanted to have a certain financial target so that we can secure the future of the family and our kids and their education. And then the second layer was more about how we try to shape in a way the future for our family, especially for the kids. Because believe it or not, maybe because of the experiences that we have in Turkey, in Middle East and so forth, one of the big priorities was to prepare the kids in such a way that they had the right education, but more importantly, they have the exposure to the cultural diversity, the curiosity to learn, etc., so that we can really prepare for the future as a global citizen. And that's, as I think Melda alluded to, that's one of the reasons why we actually are moving now from our comfort zone in Dubai to Southeast Asia. And then the third layer is obviously I think the career aspirations that each of us have. I mean, everybody in this room obviously, I think, gets a very strong self-fulfillment from success in their careers, and it's the same for us as well. So we're trying to also drive the agenda over there with the evolution of our careers. Maybe we can talk about, after the what's, maybe a bit about the house. Would you like to talk a bit about those so that maybe we can complete the picture, and then maybe we can just ask if you have further questions.
So I guess you said three things, right? Like financials, important. That's something that we have to secure as a family. Career aspirations and what we want for our kids, for ourselves, you know, them being global citizens, open, curious, tolerant kids. But then how do we get there? I think the how maybe is sometimes more challenging than the what. On the how, I mean, without going into the details of how we try to do it, maybe we can talk a bit about the principles of the how. The first principle I would say is being flexible. Yes, we have the vision. Yes, we know where we want to go. We know what are the important pillars, but I think we're quite flexible on how we get there. There are different paths to get to that end in mind. And being flexible, it doesn't necessarily mean compromise if this is a choice that you're making for the greater good. We made a couple of those flexible choices. One example is, I mean, during my first pregnancy, Tolga had the opportunity to move to Middle East. It was a great opportunity in Coca-Cola. And I was pregnant for our first baby. But we were okay for those 9 months to be split. And I mean, he was coming every weekend to Turkey. And even the first couple of months of our son, I was getting support from my parents. I think that was a flexibility we had again in the hub. Or now, as we're moving to Singapore, Tolga is actually, he moved in December. I will follow him with the kids in summer. Again, for 6 months, yes, you know, maybe we're compromising for some people, but for us, it's being flexible because we know where we want to get. And sometimes, you know, it's not black and white where you want to go. And sometimes you need, I think maybe the second principle I can talk about is having the peace of mind to course correct. We knew that we want to be global citizens. We want our children to enjoy the diversity and become inclusive people. From Middle East, our initial idea years ago was to move to Western world, somewhere in Europe, let's say London. That was the original plan. Now, instead of London, we're coming to the other end of the world, to Singapore. For me, this is an example of course correction and that principle of, if it leads to the same end goal, it's okay to find an alternative path. And to be honest with you, one of the main drivers of our decision to come to the Asia instead of Europe is financials, because we have also set financials as one of the important pillars. And because of the tax reasons, especially living in Dubai for so long, we decided that it would make more sense for the the greater aspirations we have to come to Southeast Asia. But it's okay. I mean, we changed the plan. Still, it gives us the same end objective, but maybe in a different way. So I think this flexibility and course correction, I would say, are the two important principles as we work on the hub.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in that. And first of all, apologies to all the other people on the call today. I didn't realize that Melda was going to use bad language like tax in this call. That's absolutely appalling. No one wants to hear that sort of language on a Friday afternoon. Melda, you've caught me off guard there. I'm interested in, as you've gone on that journey, what do you think the greatest challenge is? Because there's in that triangle of, here are our financial goals, here are our career goals, here are our kids. It's really easy to say them as one word and then all of that way. What if you had to isolate a couple of examples of the greatest challenges you've faced and the course corrections you've made in order to do that, what would you highlight as that's? Because I know that you're both really ambitious individuals who have found themselves, rightly so, in roles through your work ethic, your ability to build great relationships, but all of that takes time. And so when financial goals, when you're trying to raise a family, when you've got career aspirations, and you really understand your model and you're being comfortable with course corrections, which Singapore is a classic example of that. Give our audience today some insights on this was a really challenge. This was a challenge that we faced, and where we had to be flexible, and where we got to a spot where it wasn't the absolute ideal solution, but it was the best solution that fit all three of our priorities in our model.
Maybe I can give an example. I think the biggest challenge is when you have those three priorities, or for any of us, when we have the picture of success, is to actually make suboptimal decisions for your personal, let's say, career goal. And in other words, for example, as Melda was referring to, we had a common understanding on what we want to do in the long term, but there were opportunities. If I elaborate a bit more, for example, in Brazil, just before the FIFA World Cup, which is like I would say the heaven for any marketeer in the Coca-Cola company to work, and there was an opportunity for me. Similarly, later in Japan, and I really wanted to go for it. But when you look at the three important criteria that we had for success, unfortunately, it was not really working well. In Portugal, in Brazil, without language, without Portuguese, it was very hard for Melda to actually make any evolution of her career, and probably she would have to stop or start to do something like part-time and so on. That would definitely be a big break. And it was also not fitting perfectly in the long-term runway that we defined. Similarly, in Japan, and the honest truth is it hurts a bit, right? I mean, especially at the moment. I think it's very hard to say no. I mean, you can just move on and so forth. You think about it after the decision, but I think the critical, at least in our case, learning was as long as we have the North Star that Melda was referred to, then with time you actually really internalize the decision, and then you actually reach a peace of mind. I think that one is a critical aspect that we would really underline from our journey. Anything else that comes to your mind?
No, I think Brazil or Japan were the good examples.
Yeah,
Maybe something we talked earlier as well. I think it touches that topic of collective ambition, right? I am very ambitious. Tolga is ambitious, but it's important to find that collective mutual ambition that is, bigger than Tolga and Melda alone.
That common North Star that you spoke about, I think, is really important. I think the other thing that you two have spoken about, and I recognize there's people from all over the world here, and there's different levels of infrastructure and support that you can build around yourself, depending on where you are in the world. Now, one of the things that makes Dubai both comfortable to live in and challenging to leave sometimes is the level of infrastructure and support that you have in that environment. So when you understand what your North Star is and where you're prepared to invest, and that was a really interesting piece for me. You two spoke about where you wanted to invest when you knew your North Star. So what were some of the investments you made around infrastructure and support in order to make the model work as effectively as you could?
Yeah, I think it starts with the to be honest, where we are today is an evolution, but we wanted, as you said, always try to prioritize, and even from an investment perspective, again, put the focus on the right infrastructure. Both of us, for example, in the Middle East, are traveling most of the time. Now our assistants are always in touch. So without us actually even being a part of it in our calendars, we see each other's trips, and actually they even communicate with each other to see whether, in case of conflicts, we can actually have the flexibility to switch, so that at least one of us can be at home with the family, which is an important aspect of life for us. But if I go to our younger years, when in Dubai, when we first came, to be honest, we didn't have the financial stamina to go for a nanny and so forth. So for a certain period of time, we asked my mother-in-law to come and support us. And then when we have the debt, rather than taking the, let's say, holidays to Maldives or to Europe, we actually prioritize investing behind a nanny, so that we have actually the backbone evolving. And then after a couple of years, once the second child came, actually we put a second nanny, then a driver. Now, it can really sound lavish, and probably, when we were kids, we wouldn't even imagine such an infrastructure. But the whole priority was, rather than investing somewhere else or really trying to save, let's get this supporting elements in place, so that we can really put all the time, both at work and also both with our family. Therefore, I think the infrastructure is a key element, I would say, for this to work well, for a partnership to work well. Yeah. Anything else?
No. And this one, I know maybe it's a bit controversial, because when I know people say that, hey, when she has a nanny and she has a driver, it's easy for her to have a career. I'm exaggerating, maybe simplifying. But I think what maybe some people don't understand is this is an investment choice. I don't have any designer bags. I don't have designer watch. I use Apple Watch. But where we decide to invest as a couple is to create that support system, which would take us to where we want to go. So that's a choice, and we made that choice, and we have invested into that support system, and this is what we're planning to do. And now when we're in Singapore, it's the same. For our kids now, we want them to be independent and to be able to move around the city on their own, which means that we need to live somewhere central in the city, which means that with the budget we have, we cannot live in a villa, but it needs to be an apartment. But again, that apartment fits with the financial criteria and what we want for the kids. So it's always trying to make a choice between what you want and what you can afford, what you can get.
It's a really interesting piece, because I think that's the part around, and it constantly, Melda, a piece of language that I've shared with you, and I know with many people on this call. I think about Valentina in Italy. It's different subjects, but we talk about where we want to invest, not where we're spending money, but where are we investing money in order to get to that star, because it's easy to spend money, and nowhere on earth allows you to spend money like Dubai does. It's an easy place to spend, but when you really want to invest, and where you chose to invest in order to propel each of your three key drivers along in that model, was a really interesting part for me. The right resources as well. It won't be any surprise to lots of people on this group to hear us talk about right fit, right fit resources. So tell us about how those right fit resources have really been, like we in our business, for example, we've got so many of our team here on the call today, and it's all about right fit. They bring something unique and they bring something different, each one of them. And our life would be so much poorer without them. Talk to me about your right resources and how those resources have just worked so effectively for you. Give me some examples of those right fit resources.
Very personal examples come to my mind when you ask this question. I mean, the first one is going to be maybe too personal. I don't know if people would relate to it, but managing those two demanding careers and being a parent, but then there is also Melda, and there are things I want to do for myself, like being fit and exercising. And it's not necessarily easy for me to go to a club and join a Pilates class or a yoga class, because during the day, generally I'm working or I'm traveling. So I need a resource that is quite responsive to my timings. So someone who can be available early morning, 6 a.m. or maybe 9 p.m. in the evening to help me to stay fit. And this lifestyle also needs you to be fit, mentally and physically. So for the physical part, again, a resource that I have, my trainer, is that's someone I've been working for 12 years now. She understands my needs. She understands why I need her to be so flexible around her agenda. And I've been partnering with her for the last 12 years, just because of that fit. I mean, is she maybe the most professional Pilates teacher in Dubai? Maybe not, but she's the most fit for what I need. And I've decided, to work with her, and I've been quite loyal since then. I mean, maybe this is a very personal example, Mick. I don't know if you were asking this type of examples or something more professional.
It's the precise example I was looking for. It's around what the driver actually does for you, what the domestic help does for you, what your executive assistants do that wouldn't necessarily look like the normal job description. I know when you work as diversely and as widely as you two do, the long hours, the push, and I know how present you want to be in your children's lives as well. What are the things that they take out of your way in order for you to be as effective as you can be, as present as you can be in your time?
Maybe a layer over there. Again, it will be very basic when we think about think about it with the professionalness, but the definition of the expectations is critical. And even because these people usually are working with their hearts rather than a very professional mindset. Understanding what they can do and what needs to be done is critical, and communicating them. For example, we have two wonderful nannies, And we already from day one structured in such a way that one of them is the brains, the other one is the muscles, to be honest, because the other one was like elder. She had the wisdom in a way. She was able to coordinate, organize things also with the external parties, whether it's a carpenter, whether it's the gardener, and so forth. Whereas the other one is much younger, but she's full of energy. So outlining what we expect from them and with the hierarchy of decisions helps a lot. Again, it sounded very professional as I say it, but it's just applying the same principle that we do every day, I think, in the corporate world.
I mean, to make it look even more, sound more weird, actually, there's a reporting line between the nannies, and we told it from day one. This one reports to the other one, but because it helps them, it helps us. But I guess, I mean, maybe just to add a layer to what Tolga said, they know that they're part of a team and what we're trying to achieve as a family. And I think they also feel recognized and rewarded to be part of this team. We celebrate together if we have a success in our professional lives. They also brag about, you know, I don't know, Tolga's photo on Forbes magazine saying that, hey, our boss is doing this and that. So I think it's not just on the responsibility side, but it's important to make them part of the team as you celebrate the team success. I mean, now that I'm talking, I know it sounds super corporate, but funny enough, it actually works in the personal life as well.
Yeah, and I love the great quote from Ian McGeechan. Ian McGeechan says structure provides a platform for adventure and excitement. You know, when you've got a great structure, because it elevates and excites and energizes people. You know, when you've got a terrible one, because everybody just tries to break out of it. So it feels like it's worked well. And that opens up a question that Pete Turner would ask. And Pete's on the call today, and as is his lovely wife, Susan. Because Pete would talk about learning from winning. So if you were isolating what you've learned that's really worked for you and that's enabled you to win in your, you know, win financially, win from a career perspective, and win from a raising kids perspective, because I know a number of people on this call are parents, and one of the things that we'll hear quite often is I feel guilty when I'm at work because I'm not with my kids, and I feel guilty when I'm at home with my kids because I feel like I haven't finished my work, and that terrible spiral can happen there. So what have you learned from winning in that space? And with the recognition and the humility that none of us win all the time. But I know how much you two think about this, because, you know, Melda and I have been working really strongly for a long time around the strategy and how we build our strategy and where do we want to be and where do we see ourselves. And so, you know, and I know there's a deep thought around that. So what are the wins you've learned from in how you built financially, how you built career, and how you built as parents for your children?
Go first. Yeah.
By the way, I mean, before I answer this one, Mick, as we were talking about the system, the resources, you know, everything that prepares you, I think I should have added you to the list as well, right? You need to have strong advisors and mentors and coaches also to help you with that. So I think this support system or resources, whatever you call it, you can really expand it to, you know, your sports trainer, your life coach. So it's bigger than that. And thanks for everything that you have done so far for us. To the question, to my learns from my wins. I'm used to answering this, always learn from your mistakes. This is now a different take on the question.
Pete Turner, I can see, I'm looking straight into Peter Turner's eyes at the moment, and I can see Pete smiling because he said, Melda, you are welcome. That's what that smile is saying, because you've just taken you're about to take your performance to another level by learning from your wins.
Okay. I believe the first one is being open-minded, giving the benefit of the doubt pays out, or at least it paid out for me. What I realized that when change happens, when you're in the middle of that change, it's really difficult to understand, to assess properly whether that change is for you good or not good. And change is always difficult. So generally, most, including myself, we react a bit negatively to change. For me, in the cases, in the situations where I was able to stay open-minded and not have those negative biases, and give the benefit of the doubt, it's actually paid out. I mean, one major example that comes to my mind is regarding my career. I started my career in the Gillette company for the first 6 years. Amazing company, great EBITDA margins, great working culture. Everything was great. My first love, the first company that I worked with. One day, Procter & Gamble, one of the other FMCG giants, acquired Gillette. It was not expected. And most of my colleagues at that time were really frustrated with this news. And there was an opportunity either to take a package, leave the company, or to find a role and start working for Procter & Gamble. Because we were all attached to Gillette, we really liked what we did there. Majority of my friends preferred not to go with Procter & Gamble. I was mature enough to be open-minded, let's say, or maybe that's a strength that I have. After years, I realized that actually that change was one of the best things that happened to me in my career. Procter & Gamble is one of the best brand building schools. I learned a lot there, and I think it elevated my career. So yes, I think this when something happens, just stay calm, be open-minded. I think that's one thing that I learned from my wins. The second thing that comes to my mind, I don't know if you would agree, it's more about the family. And I'm reflecting on our week here in Singapore, because this week we've been here with the kids for house hunting to find our new home in Singapore. And what I have seen is that long-term planning is really helping with the execution. And planning is one of my strengths. I plan my personal life, my professional life. But I really see that this actually helps me to win. Like this move, we've been talking to the kids for a long period of time, exciting them about it, why we're doing it. We've been choosing houses together online and so on. And now this week they're here with us. They're very engaged. I mean, they have seen multiple houses, and I'm sure it's not a fun, fun thing to do. It's not a great activity to do, but they were really into it. We're finding schools and so on, and they're part of the teamwork. And I believe we're able to do this transition smoothly with them, because it's been almost now like 9 months of preparation for this move. And they have been part of that preparation, at least mentally. So I think that's, I would say, from this week's win, something that I can proudly share. I don't know if you agree to this one.
I think the first thing I should add is, I adore Procter & Gamble because we met Melda due to the transition that she referred to, because we met because she wanted to have.
You are playing this so well today, mate. You are playing this so well. It's golden. Yeah.
She wanted to actually get some insights about P&G, and actually my friends, our friends connected us. So therefore, I think it's let's say a double layered plus for P&G in our lives. But on the win, on a more serious note, I think it's more about these choices that we make, which may seem suboptimal, let's say for at least for the short term, for the personal, let's say, career ambitions, like the Brazil-Japan example and so forth. I think the learning that I would like to share, and I also try to apply every day, is once a decision is made, I think the topic should be closed in your mind. There shouldn't be more what if questions that you should be living with, that should keep you busy, because that just puts unnecessary, I would say, disappointments or doubts. I think once the decision note comes in line with the long-term vision or long-term, let's say, North Star, I think with the criteria, the decision should be made, and then you should just like forget about it. I think that's the best learning I had as a learning from the wins. Yeah, and then to be honest, what I also felt is, although in the short term these choices may create some, let's say, dents on your career trajectory, what I'm also from many of my colleagues, many of my peers is, actually, the curve is there. I mean, in the long term, I think we're going to converge where we're going to be most likely to be in the long term. Therefore, those, short-term deviations in the grand scheme of things, in the big picture, doesn't really change the long-term picture. Therefore, just be settled with the decision once you make it. I think that's the short learning.
Yeah, and I love those pieces. It makes me think a lot about David, who's on this call today, around choose your hard. You know, making like once you make that choice and then commit and follow through, and then just have that real rigor to let go of anything else and choose your heart and follow through is something that's really interesting to me. And then being open-minded, I recognize, and I'd be interested to see, even in thumbs up in the group, I know most of the best things that ever happened to me didn't look like the best thing when they first happened. You know, I think about some of the transitions that some of the people on this group are going through. Guido coming to from Italy to Dubai, you know, even Liam making some real sacrifices around his family. You know, a lot of the best things that ever happened to me didn't look like the best things at the time. And then planning, it's an interesting one. I think of some of the great planners, and I see lots of thumbs up there around that. I think of some of the great planners that we have on this group. I think specifically of Cornelis, or I think of Katia with her enormous energy around everything she brings to life. I think about people who plan. What we find is it doesn't shut down options. It tends to open them up. A lot of people say, oh, my life is so fluid, I don't really have a plan. And no, life is so fluid. That's the reason why you need a plan. And to have a great plan, I see the number of people here that do that to a level of excellence, which I really love. I think of even one of your former colleagues who, and a number have joined today. A number have joined today. I think of Passant, who I loves a plan as well, Melda. So I think those pieces are really interesting. Okay, let's change course a bit. I love those pieces. So be open-minded, because most of the best things that ever happened to you don't always look like that. Have a plan and be disciplined around it, but don't be rigid around it. Be comfortable with course corrections, as you would say. And choices, choose your heart and make a commitment to the hard decisions you want to make in life. Served you both really well. Really proud of you both. Those three things done really well. What was your biggest barrier? What do you think? Yeah, there's a great quote from Marcus Buckingham that the number one factor in success is to recognize what your biggest barrier is and then find ways to ruthlessly eliminate it. What was your greatest barrier? And how did you eliminate it as a barrier and maybe even turn it into an ally?
Okay. I don't think it's an ally yet, but I might start. I think, unfortunately, still in 2023, I would say the biggest barrier for me personally to achieve our collective ambition is the societal norms. It impacts me on personal level and professional level. Let me start with the personal one, and then maybe on the professional we can elaborate together. I come from Turkey, a Muslim culture, quite conservative, and then I moved to Middle East and to Dubai, which is not very different from my home country. And in both of these countries, and unfortunately in more developed parts of the world, still women are expected to stay home, raise kids, be a good mom, be a good wife. And if you are someone like me, and maybe some of the females on the call would relate to what I say, if you want to be a mom and be have a demanding career, you have career aspirations, and you also want to have a life, there's always that guilt feeling that surrounds you. And that's the society putting that guilt feeling into you. And it's not easy to remind yourself what you're doing at times. So, I mean, there are many times when I miss a parent-teacher meeting or I'm not there to pick up my daughter. There's that guilt that comes to me. And unfortunately, sometimes I feel that pressure coming more from females than males. I would go to a school event and another lady would say, I haven't seen you here. Is your kids in this school? And you see the judgments on their faces. So I think this has been the biggest challenge for me to not to feel the guilt, because I'm not guilty. I'm not doing anything wrong. I mean, I'm providing my kids what I believe is the right thing. I'm raising them in line with our family principles and values. They have what they need to have in the Maslow's hierarchy, but I'm also following my own dreams. And I believe I'm being a good example for them, a role model for them, but it's not easy. So it comes and goes, this guilt feeling. So I think that's on the personal side. And this is something very emotional for me. I can talk 2 hours, so I need to stop. On the professional side, it's similar. I mean, there are certain similar biases against females still. And something related to this, one of the questions I have been asked many times is, who is the lead career in your family? It must be your husband, right? So this lead career concept has been one of the challenges that I faced from the day I got married. It's also because, I mean, it's great to have a husband like Tolga who has career aspirations, who has a great career, but it's also a challenge because the assumption that many people do is that because he's so good in what he does, then, most probably you're just following him. So these are the 2 things I would say I've been challenged. Are they my allies yet? I don't know. But what I know is I'm trying to be a good role model for other women who want to follow their dreams. So whenever I find the opportunity, I would, I would push for the agenda.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. Because I constantly, when I post about you, I talk about leadership. I don't talk about women or women in leadership. I just talk about leader. And I saw a promising post from Liam, who's lived there, who's lived in Singapore, and he said he's hopeful that you will experience it a little bit differently in Singapore, Melda. So let's see. We'll look forward to hearing your feedback around that. How have you eliminated that barrier? And I suppose you've spoken about that a lot already in terms of the infrastructure you put in place, the partnership that you have with Tolga. How, through that role modeling, how do you feel like you started to chip away at that perception?
I mean, to really give credit to Tolga, I think it starts with having the right partner. I mean, I have Tolga as my partner in crime, and that makes a huge difference, right? Because if he was also telling me, okay, why don't we have dinner tonight, or why are you traveling again, or why didn't you take care of this? I think that guilt would have become much, much worse. So I think it starts with having the right partner in your life, even before the support system and so on. But yes, once you have the right partner who is really believing in you and supporting you, pushing you, it makes a huge difference. Then the support system that we talked, definitely, because then I don't need to feel guilt, right? I know that the kids need to be fed healthy food. They don't mind if it is cooked by someone else or cooked by me. At the end, they want that that food. So that I think that's the support system. And then I think as I'm able to grow in my career, recruiting a team and surrounding yourself with people who actually think similarly, who are open-minded, who are inclusive, makes a huge difference. I see some of my ex-team members here as well. I mean, they have been also quite supportive in both of those, right? Like accepting you as a leader, despite your gender, and also helping you not to feel guilty. So I think it gets a bit easier when you become more senior in your career, because then you can surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah, I'm looking at Umberto there at the moment as well, and I can see Passant is there and Pin is there as well. Well, there's a lot of your team. Passant I've already mentioned. There's a lot of your team on there, and I know you. One thing's for sure, I know that you would not dodge a courageous conversation, Melda. You weren't afraid to have courageous conversations with your team. I can see Umberto smiling at that space as well. He knows that you were always willing to have a courageous conversation. So I think that's a great space around how you built relationships as well. You care deeply but challenge directly, I think, is a motto that you brought into it, and you built great relationships because of it, not because you were afraid of courageous conversations, but because you leant into them, which is a great space, and that builds respect, I think, to teams as well. Sorry, Tolga. I think...
Can I also bring a perspective, because I mean I try to contribute to gender diversity in the workplace a lot, not only because of the let's say the journey that Melda had. We have a daughter, so I don't want her to actually face any of those challenges, and also I see a lot of colleagues at work, women colleagues, whom I believe should be actually in a much more senior role. Since they have the capability and the energy. But the interesting thing about this is, I was like 30 years old or so, I did not understand what the conversation was about. Okay, because as I mentioned, my mother is a molecular physics professor. My late grandfather was a municipality governor, and I had a very strong-willed grandmother who actually voted against him in three elections, and she was very vocal about why. So as you can see, I was never lacking actually a strong-willed woman in my family and in my life. And then, if it's not enough, in the first 10 years of my career, to be honest, I was working directly with women bosses, and they were fantastic. They are the ones, actually 3 of them, were the ones who shaped me in my current business mold. So up until like 30s, I was not really at all relating to the issue. But especially after our move to Middle East, then I started to see within our company, within our partners, within other sectors, the norms, the expectations, the challenges that Melda was referring to. And to the extent that I remember, we were invited to an award night. Melda was going to get an award. We went as a couple. We went there, they gave us like the primary table with other, I would say, distinguished guests and so forth. And obviously we started to exchange business cards, start talking about business. And everybody thought in the table that I was going to get the reward, okay? Whereas when the announcements were made, Melda went up obviously, because they just was there as a spouse. And you could, over there, from the mood, you can understand really the norms in their minds, the expectations they have. And therefore, the awareness level on the challenge improved a lot on me. And I'm really trying to work with everyone, both in my company and outside as well, to really offer at least equality in terms of opportunities and some support and flexibility for the female talent, so that we can really get to a more equitable future.
This was really a pathetic event, by the way. I mean, until the award ceremony started, everyone just came and said hi to Tolga. They exchanged business cards. No one even shook my hand or give me a business card. Like, and this is like, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. It's not like ages ago. So yeah, I was happy walking to the stage and
I'm sure you were, and we've got strong leaders from all over the world here, and it's not a gender space, but you know, we've got strong leaders in Guido in the Middle East leading those changes, but we've also got Valentina in Italy and Katia in London, and we've got so many of your team, so many people joining from Dubai as well, and people joining from Australia as well. And I think that this space it continues to be a challenge breaking through that ceiling, and that's why great role models are so important. That's part of the reason why we wanted to do this today. And I love that. I love the fact that you two don't have a lead career and don't even buy into the concept of it. You both just have careers and aspirations around that. Now we've got to the time of the day where, and I'll be finishing off with for you to share some insights, but I'd like to throw over. I'd like to throw over to the crowd here. We've got people from FMCG. We've got people from all sorts of industries who are probably going to come at this from lots of different ways. Sometimes they'll come at it professionally. Sometimes they may come at it personally. Does anyone have any questions? Alexander, who I have the privilege of working with at Kerry as well. I'm so happy you invited me to this call. You gave me a piece of inspiration I needed. I moved recently and it was great to see I'm not the only one facing all of this, which is fantastic. Great to see. I really enjoy the work I get to do with Alex. He's high and analytical as well, Tolga. So he's in that space as well. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask? You can throw it out on the group, or you can indeed just stick your hand up in the chat. You know, I'm happy. I'm happy to take any questions from anyone in the group if anyone has a question there at the moment. My question while we're waiting, because I've been thinking about it, is, you know, tangibles. If I said to you, what are I love the open-minded plan, choices, choose your heart and commit to the heart. What are some tangible recommendations you might give to people in some of the places, and be it what's a tangible recommendation you make around financial planning, what's a tangible recommendation you make around parenting, what's a tangible recommendation you'd make around building your career path?
Couple of things come to my mind, and again, I mean, it might not work for everyone. It worked for us, so take it with a pinch of salt. You can customize it according to your needs. Having said that, I believe, I mean, make sure you plan really well your short term and your long term. And when I say planning, you can expand it to all the aspects of your life. Let's take financials. It's been now 7-8 years we've been working with financial advisors. We told them what's our dream, what's our retirement plan, when we want to retire, and what kind of a life we want to have. And they've been helping us for the last 7-6 years how to get there, how much money we need to earn, how much we should save, where we should invest. Because, I mean, we have dreams, right? I know that at a certain point, I want to shift my career. I want, you know, bigger dreams. So to get there, I need that financial stability. So we're planning our financials for the long term. So that's just one pillar of financials. But where you're going to live, where you're going to retire, where you want kids to go, where you want your career to go, these are all parts of the planning. But it can go to a micro level of planning for your holidays for that year. Because we both work and we have demanding careers, we do a lot of business travels. We always plan for the vacations of the year, the December of the previous year. So 2023 December, we would book in our holidays for 24, because that's the only way where we can make sure that 80% of those plans will materialize. So I think my first tangible recommendation is, as much as possible, plan your financials, plan your holidays, plan your career. But as Mick said, it's you also need to be comfortable when it's not 100% done. It's important to stay a bit flexible and agile. That's my first practical recommendation. The other one, if you guys are single, find the right partner that fits with your ambition, so you can have a collective ambition. I think that's the second practical one. How to get to that partner, I think we can discuss it offline. But these are the two that comes to my mind.
Maybe I can just have a build on the planning piece, because I'm just feeling that it is coming across as you can plan everything, which is so far away from the reality. And I think it would actually lead to paralysis if you try to work out, especially given the uncontrolled variables in the personal and in the professional life, to actually have hundreds of scenarios and try, what if this turns out this way, and so on. And it even comes up when I have friendly chats with people, with my peers, or both in the company and outside, about how now you won't be able to move together so hard and so on. But I think the layer that needs to be highlighted on planning is it's more about, I would say, runways, strategic runways. I want to go Southeast Asia. I want to stay in FMCG. I want to work for 10 years. I want to have the family and the kids to reach these norms and goals and so forth. So once we have those runways, I think you have to be at peace and wait for the right opportunities and take the decision at that time, rather than expecting the control about the future with a high granularity at time, because that's never going to happen.
I think, Mick, this reminds me of something that you always say, gradually, but then suddenly. I think it's about taking those graduals and then suddenly you will get there.
I'd love to take credit for Ernest Hemingway's great language, but I will let Hemingway have the gradually gradually then suddenly. Liam, you had a question for Melda and Tolga, and you've done a few of these little expat loops yourself, mate, and now back into Dubai as well. So what was your question, mate?
Yeah, so I was just wondering, because I didn't know you guys before, and I recently got back to Dubai. What I was trying to work out is, have you gone with your current companies and been posted to Singapore, or have you had to deal with the change of maybe setting up new things? Where are you with that?
Yeah, I'll take the question, but maybe I'll step back a bit. Years ago, when we decided that we want to be global nomads, we actually put the world's map on the table with Tolga and tried to find where Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola have offices, like in the same city.
Yeah.
And there weren't many options. I mean, in South Africa, it was, I don't know, Cape Town and Joburg. In Brazil, it was Rio and Sao Paulo. So that's an exercise we started maybe 15 years ago, and that's how we landed in Middle East. This time, when we put the criteria and started planning, we put the map again. I mean, this time it was the map on our phones. We didn't need to put it on the table. And we started to have the same filtering. And as we did the filters, Singapore was, the top of the list for us to land. That helps us to get where we want to. And it's almost, honestly, impossible at this level where we're in our careers to move at the same time with the same companies to jobs that we want. It's not really realistic to expect that. So our agreement was whoever finds something really good, the other one follows and changes the company, takes an opportunity to try something new. So in this case, Tolga, got the opportunity with his current company, Coca-Cola, and I'm the one who is going to try something new. So I left my organization, and in 7 days or so, I'm starting my new job.
Yeah,
Very exciting.
and that is classic. That is classic Melda, LW. In 7 days, she's starting her new job. It didn't. When you've got quality, it does not take long for the cream to float to the top. Sorry, mate, you were going to add something there.
No, I mean, look, thanks for that. All I would say is, if you need any help in Singapore introductions, then I can help. And whether it be schools, whether it be areas, whether it be friends, reach out to me.
I will. Thank you.
Great place. The food's off the clock, so you'll have an amazing time.
Yeah, he really enjoyed it. The next question goes in a different direction, and I think it's from Kriti, whom I work with. So Kriti, would you like to ask the question? Because I think both Tolga and Melda will have a perspective on this. And Melda, you've done it. You've actually done this. So I think this is a great role model example. So Kriti, would you like to ask that question?
Sure. Thanks, Mike. And what a great conversation. I've been listening into and enjoyed every second of it. My question, of course, to both of you, right? You guys have risen up the hierarchy, managing your shared goals, relationship, work, home very beautifully. My question is, especially when you move up in the same organization, take up different roles, a lot of times there are biases that are formed, there are perceptions. What are the top, say, 2 or 3 things that have helped break those biases or perceptions and helped move up the ladder from a mid-management to a more executive role?
So how did you two, because all of us, when we're on our career trajectory, because we're dealing with people, occasionally we will run, we have to find ways to be flexible around and develop new perceptions around ourselves, change the narrative around ourselves occasionally. How have you managed to do that whilst remaining true to the people that you are? Because I know how important your values are, and rise to such a great level in both those prestigious companies you've worked in.
Yeah, could you want to go?
On my side, I got a couple of jobs where the brief was transformation of the organization culture, rather than immediate focus on the business results. And in such cases, when you come and join as the leader of that group, and when there is such an expectation, there are some barriers of the existing from the existing team, because they believe that you as a leader would always be critical. You coming from X organization with Y culture and so forth. In such cases, what I found useful in my case was to first give some safety net to the existing organization, so that there is no really rush and immediate, let's say, decisions or uninformed decisions to be made, and then open the conversation with inclusivity, so that they can become a part of the conversation. They can become a part of the assessment, so that I really at least a couple of months to digest basically the insights in a way 360, and then start creating this transformation plan. And as much as possible, again, with including people from the existing organization, so that they can really buy into it. In such cases, I found this extremely useful, and now again in my current role in Singapore as well, I'm applying the same. Maybe you can add anything that comes to your mind.
Maybe I was thinking on a different tangent. To be able to move up in the career ladder, what have I done? This is how I understood the question. I would say performance is number one, but that's not enough. I think that's a must. So it's important that whatever job is given to you, you have to deliver the results, ideally over-deliver the results with less resources. I think it's easier said than done, but that's the number one, regardless of the seniority you have in the organization, the industry, the company. So that's the base. I guess after that, it's about you creating your narrative and creating your brand equity as an individual. As Kriti, what do I stand for? What do I want to deliver? But for you to be able to create that narrative, you need to first get to know yourself really well. I think you need to be aware of your strengths. And if I use again Mick and Peter's terminology, your balconies and basements, where you're good at, where you're not, what are your blind spots. And once you really understand who you are, what you're able to do, I think it's relatively easier than to create your narrative and to start building your equity within that organization, or sometimes even outside of the organization. I think in the last couple of years, I've been more intentional about it, and I'm now reaping the benefits of that during this transition. I mean, it's been relatively easy for me to find alternative roles in Singapore as we decided to move. And I give credit to myself in the sense that I built that narrative, that story around myself. So I think this is the second one, like perform, get to know yourself based on your strengths, build your personal equity. And I have to admit, there's a bit of luck as well. Where you are at what time, right time, right place, all of those also play to your advantage or sometimes plays to your disadvantage. If you want it to play to your advantage, I think it's important to expand your network. Generally, as females, we don't invest much into this pillar. I'm also learning, I'm quite new in this, but I think that also helps the luck factor. Luck also loves the prepared mind. So I would say that's the third.
Yeah, Kriti, I think there's a number of components to that. I having watched Tolga and Melda for a long time, I think the maxim lucky equals when preparation meets opportunity. And luck prefers the prepared mind, as Melda said. Brilliant. I know how hard they've worked to be in that space. But I also recognize that winning the narrative is far more about what people are saying about you than what you are saying to people. So how do you get the conversation to change around what people say about you? Because it's easy to say when I'm talking about I think that component around and language that many of our clients would understand here. How am I landing with the people I lead? And how am I landing with the people I want to influence? And how can I land in that authentic way that engages and energizes people? I think when I look at both of you, Tolga and Melda, I think you are lucky and lucky on purpose. That when you listen to the way you plan to be, and that you invest in, as you said earlier, Melda and Tolga, you invest in coaching, you invest in the infrastructure and support that's really on purpose around putting yourself in the space to be as successful as you want to be. I'm just going to check if Pete loved that one. I'm sure I'll be hearing a bit more from Pete around luck prefers the prepared mind. I think that's true. And we've got lots of people who are obviously wishing you both well on the move on the move to Singapore. A question for me, a question without notice. The thing that I loved is that one of the things that you both said to me was we knew it was time to leave Dubai because we were too comfortable. And one of the things we know about Dubai, and there's lots of people that have lived there a long time, 20 plus years for me. It's a place where you can get comfortable, but it's also a place where I know so many people on this call have refused to make it a place to be comfortable. They've used it as a platform. But what did you mean when you said, okay, we knew it was time to move because we were too comfortable?
I think, Mickey, as you said, I think Dubai is both a blessing and a curse. It's really a double-edged sword because of all the advantages that you mentioned. It really tends you to stay in your comfort zone, in your Dubai, in your current role, in your company, and try not to rock the boat. But unfortunately, after some time, the learning curve really flattens. That's the reality. The way we were trying to manage it was having actually different roles and different functions, maybe getting roles with higher responsibility areas. In Melda's case, moving to different companies, so that there was something fresh every 2-3 years to put on ourselves as a challenge. But the reality is, I mean, if you ask me my honest opinion, if you were to, because we stayed in Dubai for about 13 years, if we have moved out of Dubai 5 years ago, probably professionally, we would be much more diverse, we would be much more agile, and that's the reality. And therefore, feeling that, let's say, reduction in the marginal learning and development, we wanted to move out of Dubai. And Singapore or Southeast Asia as an idea came also with the motivation on the family and on the kids' evolution with their exposure on cultural diversity, because it really played a big role. But moving out of Dubai was mainly because of that comfort zone phenomenon. And to be honest, I've seen many friends, colleagues here that come to Dubai like us for a 2-3 year assignment and then end up staying there for like 10 plus years, because that was exactly what we went through. But I think there has to be a sweet spot where you need to look for the next challenge and getting out of Dubai.
It's even sometimes maybe, I mean, just managing the short term and the long term, right? Because in Dubai, in the short term, you're making more money than you can make anywhere else, if I just take the financial aspects of it. But then your career at some point stagnates. So maybe the net present value of how much money you can make in the next 15 years is going to be less if you decide to stay in Dubai. But short term, I mean, it's heaven on earth, right? So it's so difficult to get out. I think COVID in that sense has been a time for reflection for us to remind ourselves the North Star, the compass, and to course correct. I think we've stayed too long. Having said that, long live the Sheikh, long live Dubai. I think at some point we'll come back.
Yeah, and I think, and then yeah, we do love we love it, but we also love that we've got such a diverse crowd on today's To Be Limitless Friday session. Listen, I just on behalf of everyone who's joined us today, I just wanted to take some time. We'll grab a photo in a moment, but we just wanted to take some time to, first of all, congratulate both of you on the model that you're living, the inspiration you've been to so many people. And I know when we talk about inspiration to so many people, we also talk about the charitable side of your life, the contribution sides of your life, the team development, the growth of people side, all of those components, which I so deeply value. For me personally, it's been just a real pleasure to watch you both grow as leaders. I've seen that growth over such a period of time as well, and that's really been an inspiration to me. I'd like to really thank you for giving up your time at this time of great change, and I really value that even in this time of change, you continue to invest, you continue to think about the future, you continue to grow that North Star. So I think it's really fantastic. So I'd like to congratulate you. I'd like to thank you. the To Be Limitless Friday sessions, we run them every last Friday of the month. They're designed to add value. And I think you'd all agree that having Tolga and Melda here today added enormous value, and we're incredibly thankful. I know that Devika will be asking everybody now to turn on your camera. She'll change the setup of the screen probably as well, using magic that I do not understand or possess. We'd like to grab a photo that we can share with Melda and Tolga in particular to say thank you for their time and their preparation and contribution. I know that Tolga isn't as used as Melda to working with me, so we had a preparation call that I think was quite an eye-opener for him around the way I prepare, that may be a little bit different to the way that he's prepared previously. So, which is it's good course correction, Tolga, course correction, mate. So, Devika, I'll ask you to have the screen.
It's flexibility, actually.
Melda, Devika, I'll ask you to split up the screen, and we'll grab a photo of everyone that we've got here so that I can share it. I'm just changing my view to the gallery. Oh, I've got that now. Fantastic. Thank you to everyone for, gee, we've got some really great people today. If everyone could just turn on their camera so that I can get a photo, provided you've got an opportunity to. Wow. I am so happy to see all of your faces, because I haven't been seeing that. I've just been seeing Melda and Tolga. So I'm delighted that I got a chance to see everyone. Thanks for your time. Yeah, sincerely, thank you for all of the effort and on a Friday afternoon. We deeply appreciate it. The To Be Limitless team is all about community and connection. So we love these sessions as an opportunity for you to connect, and we're thankful. Have a great weekend. I'm signing off from Australia. I think I'm the furthest away at the moment. Then we've got people in Singapore, we've got people in South Africa, the Middle East, and the UK who've joined today, and Italy potentially, depending on where VV joined us from. So I'm looking forward to catching up with all of you again. I'm really thankful, not just for Tolga and Melda, but also for the great people on this call. Just real quality today. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. See you.
Good night. Thanks, Melda.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
See you, Katia. Thanks for the energy. Love that smile.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Again. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.